everybody, welcome into Going Public. Harry McCullough here. We're joined by the Levee District Chairman, Mr. Wendell Curall. Thanks for being with us. Of course, anybody knows levees knows Wendell, so thanks for being here. And we were just talking, and the first thing I want to talk about is that South Lafourche in general, the mascot.
Yeah.
Tell me about the mascot.
Well, you know, you got to try to find the nice little things to smile at during this terrible time. But you know, I said, you know, South Lafourche for a little while after the storm, we had a new mascot. You know, it was South Lafourche Torps On, because it seemed like just about every house. And let me tell you, a Category 4 hurricane is supposed to cause roof damage and some structural. And I mean, to the T, that's what happened to both Lafourche and Terrebonne.
Oh,
really.
yeah. I mean, look.
That wind was something else.
You're right about the tarps. I don't know what the percentage is, but it's got to be 80, 90%.
So you had roof damage and water in your house. I had roof damage and water in my house.
Yeah.
You know, the good thing for us, we were able to keep the storm surge out, and that was almost miraculous. I mean, we were very, very fortunate. We needed every inch of the levee to keep that water out, and we were so fortunate. A little bit of bad luck, we could have had 10 feet of water in the place.
Right, because, I mean, again, this was a wind event, right, for the most part, right?
Well, you say it's a wind event. To us, we had 17 feet of water up against the levee. You're going to call that a wind event?
Well, that's what I was going to say. We didn't know how close we were to being more of a...
You know, I heard the people
more
in New
of an
Orleans,
event.
yeah, well, the storm surge wasn't up there where they got that terrible wind. And it was a terrible wind. Look, you can't minimize how terrible that wind was. And we lucky people didn't die just from the damage from the wind. But had the water gotten in, we would have had hundreds of people dead in South Lafourche.
That's exactly what, that was my point. Because Katrina was basically a wind event in New Orleans, right? Until the 17th Street Canal broke,
exactly.
Right? Then it became a flood event all of a sudden.
And that's a big point you bring in. It was the wall that failed, not a levee.
Right.
People don't understand that the levees on Lake Pontchartrain, when Katrina was blowing in, kept them out.
There's a T-wall
but
on the 17th Street
wall
Canal.
along the 17th Street Canal, and I think it was also the London Avenue.
Right.
That's what flooded New Orleans proper. Now, St. Bernard, that storm was 4 to 5 feet over their levee.
That was 100%.
And that wasn't a levee. The levee might not have been taller. You could have made it taller, but as far as the levee failing, it didn't fail. It was just more than it was designed for.
Well, my point is that y'all levees this year, you were dealing with 17 feet. And it was close, right?
I mean, and the water got over in a couple of spots, but the way it worked, it didn't get over where we had our highest levees. We were able to, and where we had our levees further up, we did get some overtopping, but no houses damaged, no businesses, no losses. I mean, that's crazy when you have that type of wind and that type of storm hitting.
Right, and you're hoping that people are paying attention, right? Because we've done a lot of work, paid a lot of money to do our own levee systems. And if you could just compare a couple of years ago to what's happening now, even though they've been tested pretty good, held up pretty good as far as flooding and that kind of stuff.
Look, the thing is this, you never can guarantee people that you're not going to flood. But what you can say is that you're better today than yesterday and better tomorrow than today. And both in Lafourche and Terrebonne, we can absolutely say that we are working, leaning as far forward as we can to build the best protection we can, because we can't guarantee.
Right.
We don't know what the next storm, again, if you've got a 16-foot levee and the storm pushes a 20-foot storm surge, you lose. No matter how good the levee is, you flood. Right. But the higher we get the levee, the less chance of flooding.
So like I said, hopefully people are paying attention, because it's hard to say because of FEMA, and we've obviously run up a pretty big bill with FEMA this year. But we have saved over the couple of years, we've saved money. And you've noticed, and it seems like Garrett Graves and some of our congressmen have also noticed.
Yes,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
So where was Garrett when he was talking to you guys?
This was 10 days after the storm, and he decided to do this podcast, and he was just inside of the Golden Meadow Lock in front of the levee system there, and talked about what had happened.
So let's listen to Garrett for a couple of minutes here. He's talking about what these levees did.
Hey, it's Garrett Graves. We're about 10 days past Hurricane Ida. I'm standing in Golden Meadow, Louisiana. You've heard a lot of awful stories about the devastation caused by that incredible storm. You're well aware of the electricity that has been out all over the state. You're well aware of the cell phones being down, internet being cut. You're aware of the water systems being down, wastewater being out of service. and many, many other really difficult challenges. I want to tell you a good story. This levee behind me is known as the Lafourche to Golden Meadows system. It's run by the South Lafourche Levee District. The executive director is a guy by the name of Wendell Curall. Several years ago, Wendell said, you know what? My levee's not high enough. I need to build it higher. And so Wendell started working on getting money and trying to bring the resources together to raise this levee. And the Corps of Engineers came in and they fought him. They said, you can't do it. They issued cease and desist orders, and Wendell refused to take no for an answer. He kept building that levee higher and higher, making sure that this area had the protection that it deserved, the protection that it needed. And despite the Corps telling him no and issuing him legal letters and telling him he had to stop and he didn't have permits and he was doing it all wrong, Wendell kept on going. And the South Lafourche Levee District, that board, they supported those actions. And I'll tell you, if Wendell hadn't persevered, if he hadn't kept pushing, if he hadn't refused to take no for an answer, if he hadn't just stuck with his Cajun ingenuity and that sixth sense that he had, this whole area where we are today would have been underwater. Those extra feet of levee that they put here, it was exactly what was needed to protect this area of Lafourche Parish from Hurricane Ida. To Wendell, to the South Lafourche Levee District, and to even some of the people like Leon Terrio that date back decades that started this initial system. Thank you. Thank you for refusing to take no. Thank you for your perseverance. Thank you for forcing your Cajun ingenuity on the Corps of Engineers. You saved a lot of lives. You saved a lot of destruction. God bless.
I tell you what, that guy could be running your campaign. That's an awesome thing to hear from a guy that can make a difference.
But he knows. Yeah, and this is why it's important to us that he said it, because, I mean, I remember first time I met Garrett, he was working for Congressman Tools and had gone to Washington to talk about some of the needs we had, all right? But we ended up not in the office. We were on a table in the hall.
Right.
Just Garrett, this young guy working, and all these young people.
He still looks
and I
young.
mean, he's going to be gone. He's going to be gone in 5 years. He's not going to be around. Well, sure enough, Garrett stayed around, and then and he became the head of CPRA. Okay, and at the time after Katrina, they changed the standards on building, and they wanted us to build to those new standards. And I wanted to meet with Garrett to make him understand, because he had helped get us some money through Jindal to do our work on them. So look, we don't believe it's a smart way to spend the money the way the Corps wants us to spend it, because they want us to spend a lot more money on earth. When we say a levee, I'm saying an earthen structure.
Sure.
We studied, we sent our people to check after Katrina, and we got a different answer. Then we didn't believe we needed to change the basic way you build a levee. Now, eye walls needed to be changed, the intersection of concrete and steel with the levees themselves. But the levees did not have to be changed. We had to build them higher, but they added every little extra whistle so that the money, the cost of a levee got
you never get them built.
high.
Right.
So we said, look, we're going to build the pre-Katrina standards, and we felt very confident they would work. Well, this storm helped prove that they would work. But and again, it's that battle with the standards. We just think they misinterpreted. There's a couple of guys in New Orleans. Bob Turner, who was in charge of St. Bernard. St. Bernard flooded the worst of anybody. They had 11 feet of water in their system. And Stephen Spencer, who worked for the New Orleans Levee District. And they both testified to the group that was appointed to study the storm. And they didn't listen to those two guys. And I know those two guys. Yeah. They are engineers. They don't know how it is to lie,
Right.
I mean, they're the most boring people in the world. And they told a straight story to those people in that committee, and had they listened to them, we wouldn't have a problem right now with some of the standards that have. Now, it's been a lot of years since Katrina. For Morganza, with the work that Reggie and Corey and Dwayne have done, they actually lowered the standards for some of the levees here in Morganza, because it makes sense.
Right.
But this was the big test. We have been building the levees the same way that we've always built levees pre-Katrina. The storm, water got to the top. We had a couple of spots where water came over and degraded the backside. no failure.
Right.
They still held. So the basic design of levees we didn't need to change post-Katrina. That was a misinterpretation that we felt we couldn't afford. If we had spent the money to
Right.
build,
We couldn't have made them 11 billion or whatever they did.
well, if we would have spent the money, our levees would have been maybe 5 to 6 feet lower than they were.
Yeah.
Had they been 5 to 6 feet lower,
Been over
we would
the
have
top.
flooded, we would have lost lives. And the community, look, a lot of people are going to move out because of what that wind was so damaging and tore up so many homes. But had we had water come in, I think
Everybody.
it would have been almost
I mean, like
close to
Chalmette,
the
you-
death of the
Have
community.
you been to Chalmette lately? It's still not the same.
Right,
It's
but
15,
they're
16
coming
years
back
later.
though. You know
yeah,
the system. They're
but-
coming back, but that
Not
it
like,
would have been,
you know.
and we would have lost people. Let me tell you, when I went around that levee system right after the storm, I couldn't believe we didn't flood.
Right.
I mean, debris inside, debris to the top. Nobody died. When I looked at the houses that were destroyed by the wind, nobody died. But if water had gotten in, that storm surge had
Oh,
gotten
yeah.
in, we would have lost hundreds of people, hundreds. And,
Yeah.
and that was one of the problems. Too many people stayed. That 30% stayed.
Right.
You know, we needed to, look, that storm, we couldn't guarantee we
lucky.
were going to win that battle.
No, you're right about that. And Garrett, like I say, you got a guy that's really on your side, but he knows the area, right?
He
comes
really
down
knows.
fishing, so
He fishes.
makes
He's
a
been
big-
fishing with me. He knows this
makes
area.
a big difference. We just talked about Gary Graves and what a great job the way the your levees really held up over. You can't really be challenged any more than what we had. So
absolutely.
to see that is awesome. But we got some good pictures of a little before and after. Before we start looking at pictures, and we'll be looking at debris. That was one of the biggest issues, right? Was cleaning debris.
Well,
after.
well, once we survived the storm, we driving around, and it's like, how am I going to see where the damage is? How can I get this stuff off so I can make sure that the grass is growing by the time we start in August?
Right.
Okay, because another hurricane season is coming,
Right.
and before,
Right.
you start thinking about
The
that right
train's
away.
coming.
We survived the storm, but there's no guarantee for
ready.
the future. Okay, there's no guarantee. So the number one thing is that, well, we got to get the debris off so I can do the repairs and start seeding where we have some problems.
And you need grass, right? Because that keeps the levees together. If it's bare,
They've run
it just-
tests. I talked to the head of engineering for the Corps in New Orleans, and they do it. There's a flume that they use in Colorado State that is nationally known, okay? And she said, it's amazing, a good growth of grass. They tried puncturing it, and they had trouble.
Right.
They had to actually physically do some
Right.
damage to it to see it break apart.
Yeah.
So,
If
that's
it's
the
just
most
dirt,
cost-effective
yeah.
way to do it. Yeah, well, dirt, there's nothing holding it.
Right.
Clay has a positive
little
and
bit,
negative
right,
side, so
right.
there's a little bit of adhesion, but
Right.
but
Nothing.
you put grass on there, it's like 10 times better.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that we work on.
And something you found out a little bit about what it costs to remove debris compared to building a levee.
Amazing. I mean, again, we had people who have done Katrina and Rita and all the big storms, and they said they had never seen more debris than what they saw on our levee. They estimated 1 million cubic yards, okay? And we had to get rid of it. And we had a quote of $26 a cubic yard to move that stuff off.
For 1 million cubic yards.
For 1 million cubic yards, so $26 million bucks. I said, you got to be
I
kidding.
could build levees for that.
Yeah, we build levees for $4 to $10 a cubic yard, and they want us to spend $26. That's what the estimate is. So but we had
You
to
gotta
do
do
what
it,
we
right.
could do.
You
All
gotta
right,
do
so
it.
we started, and what's good, I think it was the first 90 days, FEMA paid 100% of that cost. All right, so we try to get as much done during that time. But when we realized, hey, look, guys, look, most of this is grass. If we can pull out, they let you burn tree limbs and stuff, but they won't let you burn lumber or anything else,
Right.
actually. So there were a few places it was just marsh grass. So we
Was it
took it,
burn
we
that?
shoved it to the edge of the levee out right away, and we burned it. We got permission. We had to go through a process
Right.
to get permission to burn it. But even burning it, they charged us $11 to burn it. But bottom line, it's a lot better than 26.
Absolutely.
And we were tearing up the levee by loading these gigantic double trucks that they
Yeah.
have.
Oh, yeah.
Tearing up the
Going
levee,
over
tearing
the
up
levee.
our roads, tearing up everything. So I said, no, man, we don't have to, any cubic yard we don't have to truck off.
Right.
That's a saving. So we're at now we spent $8 million getting the
that's
debris
better than
off the levee.
26.
It's a hell of a lot better,
Yeah.
and I'm glad. And FEMA was kind of surprised that we were able to do things cheap, because most of the time people make it more expensive.
I was
And
about to
said,
say,
that's not
that's
how
a
we
first
like
for
to do
them.
stuff. We always
That's a
do it
first for them.
the
Wait,
most cost effective as we can, you know. And we pushed that concept, and they helped us get the burn permit, and that all worked out.
That's great. So we got some pictures of what's going on, and yeah, the work never stops, right? That train's
Well, no,
coming.
exactly. Well, the
Right.
thing is, we again, heavyweight fight, both fighters get damaged. We went in a heavyweight fight and we got damaged.
Yeah.
You know, we won,
Right,
but,
ain't
but,
perfect,
but
right.
we were damaged. So get the debris off and start repairing. Okay.
All right, what we got? What are we looking at?
Next slide. What is that? Just the levee in good shape that we repaired. Next
got you.
slide. This is a portion of flood wall where there's a pump station, and we had done some of the work, but not all of it. And we got delayed by 4 months, and that we paid a price for that, because we were going to be, well, what you see, that sheet pile right there is right at plus 12. We were going to be at plus 16 when it completed, but the storm hit us. Okay, next slide. Okay, that's again looking at the 12-foot elevation. Next slide. And that's debris on the inside came over the top. That we had easily 12 feet of water, and the run up was up to 16 and 17 in some places. So we did have water enter this, some of the overtopping. We overtopped it about 3 or 4 places. Not enough to damage any buildings or businesses, but enough to get in there and scare you. You know.
Right.
But had we had that job finished, okay, next slide. And this is the completed job, we would have had none of that debris in. That's how every
all
little
stayed
bit,
outside.
any delay. I mean, you always have to lean forward.
Right.
You can't. One
You're
thing
about 4 months. You'd have had it done.
Well, yeah, well, and we were delayed 4 months
Right.
because of a technical issue that
Right.
we felt was already answered by
Right.
our investigating,
Right.
and they didn't trust our investigating, so we ended up having paying the price. But luckily, it wasn't a terrible price. All right, next slide. And then just again some of the debris all around, and when it got in, it got in. Next slide. Again, this is some work. Again,
So this is below Golden Meadow.
this is right next to the park in Golden Meadow. That's Oak Ridge Park you're looking at, and we're the backside of it. Again, raising the levee because water came very close to the top of getting, and a bunch of debris on the other side. And so that's an improvement of some of the dirt. Right now, we're raising that piece of levee and getting it up. Next slide. Again,
More
the
debris.
debris on the levee, unbelievable, all over the place. Next slide. And a few places we had a little bit of erosion of some of the marsh grass, but everything looked normal. We had places that had no problem at all. And again, it was all the angle, and that's why when you have the hurricane goes in a certain line, but because it's rotating,
Right.
it does crazy things, and we saw some things we'd never seen before. All right, next slide. Again, this is the kind of debris that we had. But if you see that bald spot, this is a unique thing that I've never seen before.
Yeah.
I've seen some damage to our grass when the storm hit. I remember Ike. I remember seeing some grass in one of the levees. It was not quite as thick. But here, the grass was completely blown out. And I'm thinking that it might not even be the waves. I'm thinking that
Wind.
130 mile an
Yeah.
hour wind picking up the spray on top,
Right.
doing like a power hose. You know,
Oh,
when
yeah.
you're at a car wash,
Yeah.
when when you have differential pressure, this
Oh,
this
yeah,
rain
right.
going 130 miles an
Right.
hour, and on the side nothing. Well, it's going to push like heck. When you
Sure.
get a wave coming, it all kind of forces everything together.
Correct.
So we believe that grass got torn up,
Squirrel.
and this is the first time ever I have chunks of
pressure
levee
washer.
getting eaten out. Had never had that happen before.
Yeah, if you've ever been outside and 90 mile an hour, it hits you like it
you feel like
stings.
it
right.
feels like pins are
right.
hitting you.
Right.
Well, at
So
130 miles an hour,
140, yeah.
we believe that's what happened, and we're still trying to figure out everything.
Right.
It's hard to tell, but there's a levee right next to those boats. That's a little levee peeking on top.
Right.
And one part of this levee is 17 feet high, and the debris line was within a foot of the top, but didn't get over. When you're going through Golden Meadow,
Thank goodness. huh?
you'll see that you're on the 4-lane highway. There's one place the levee almost abuts the roadway.
Right.
Well, that's the spot.
That's where
17
one-
feet high, got within a foot of getting over, but it did.
Yeah.
Unbelievable how fortunate we were.
Look, it's holding back boats and barges
And then
and stuff.
here's a levee cleaned up. When we get it this way, now we can get in, throw dirt where we need to throw dirt, throw seeds. And I tell my guys all the time, look, I don't care how fat the birds get, keep throwing seeds. Keep throwing the seeds. We got to get the grass to grow.
We like fat birds.
This
too.
is a houseboat. This is a houseboat that got pushed up to within about 4 feet of the top of the levee. And look, it was.
Where do you think that came from?
I know exactly where it came from. Just in the marsh, in the canals, we got houseboats all over the place.
Right, but I mean, how far do you think that boat went?
I'm not sure how far this would drive. Might have been 2-3 miles. I don't know, but we've got.
He's probably going,
some
"Where's
of
my houseboat?"
those offshore safety capsules.
Right.
We had
all over the place.
half a dozen on the levee. No, this thing brings in water and sediments. Now it's a hell of a way to bring
is that water?
bring
is
sediment.
that still
No,
water?
that's debris.
So-
That's debris.
No, but I mean, how's he gonna get how you gonna get that off?
Well, he had to get in there and actually dredge through this stuff. And actually dredge and pull the boat. Oh, it's unbelievable. He actually repaired his roof while it still was on the levee. No, I'm crazy stuff. I
Wait
got
till the next
canals.
storm and it goes up, then you can pull it off.
But you know, every storm brings in new material. It tears up your marsh, tears up all
Right.
kind of things. But all your canals are shallowed out. Now, you can't get anywhere you want to get because the canals are shallow.
Right.
But that's new material to build your levee with.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes.
Yeah, you're right.
Again, this is just work on the
But look how big
inside.
it is now. That's a big old truck down there.
Oh yeah.
And so it shows you the scale of what we're looking at.
Yeah, and the levees in that area 18 feet high. You know, but they're clean now. Okay, and they're just piling up the marsh grass. Okay, next slide.
More debris. Yeah.
And some of the areas we got the outside was torn up and we got it fixed. And we had a bunch of debris get on the inside of this levee. We found that the levees that were parallel to the coast got beat harder than the other ones.
Parallel.
Yeah.
Oh well, parallel.
Yeah, but again,
Yeah.
with a swirling, it's almost like a swirling
Right.
lob of jello, and you don't know exactly
Oh.
what it's going to do. And this is covered, man. This is unbelievable. Some of this marsh grass was 5 feet thick on the levee. If you flew above it, you thought it was just grass on the levee.
Right.
Just amazing. And then this is the
what we
material
got now.
taken off and also bringing dirt in. I got one area,
Get
the
those
waves
seeds
must have
on
been
it.
breaking right on the crown because I had about, I'd say 800 feet easy of that corner of the crown was eaten up, and we had to go ahead and bring dirt and get that back in shape again.
Wow.
But we repaired everything.
That's
There's
great.
one piece left. We're in better shape than we were before the storm, except for one place, and we will have that finished within another 35 days.
That's awesome. Because like I say, it's coming. The next one
Oh,
is
yeah.
on the way. Well, Wendell, thank you so much for being with us, man. We appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
All right, that's going public. We'll see you next time right here on Bayou Town.